y'all, come on.
Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good. So good. I got you. Wow, I feel nice. A sugar and spice. I feel nice. A sugar and spice.
Happy Friday and Happy New Year, friends. Me and Andy are back together again live in the studio here with the Black Pack that I see gathering. I had a pretty good break, Andy. Did you? So? I don't know. I had a pretty good break. I spent time with family and I did a whole lot of nothing, and you know, it was, I started a new workout program, which I feel like I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but I was like, let me not let my weights continue to get dust on them.
You're hilarious. What plans do you have? What goals do you have?
I plan to use these dumbbells. That's my plan. But that's about it. But it was it was a good break, and I think even you and I were saying earlier, like the first 48 hours or so of 2026, they were pretty good. I felt like I was on a roll for about 2 days. Things seemed like they were looking. The Seahawks, you know what I'm saying? The Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right. The Seahawks won the NFC West. Like things looked like they were going pretty good. Jill Scott got a new album out.
We're not going to be friends for the next couple of weeks.
Okay. We will be. You'll be happy for me. I'm trying to be, like me with the Mariners, I was like, I'm not paying attention because they're going to blow it. So I'm kind of not paying attention, but kind of got one eye open watching them. But things were going good. I was still feeling pretty good, about the Stranger Things finale. You know what I mean? Like,
I know nothing about Stranger Things.
Oh, come on, Andy.
Sports and music. That's it.
Well, anyway, I was feeling good about the Stranger Things finale. Like, Elle had to sacrifice so that the others could live. And I'm going to tell you this so that you'll be like, I'm going to watch it. Right? You had Lucas and Erica, who were maybe the first Black characters to not get, eliminated from a sci-fi horror show. They sort of made it. They were heroes the entire way. I can appreciate that. Prince popped up in the final minutes of the series, the series finale. I was like, hey, okay, I'm good with this, and hopefully folks like me are Stranger Things fans. Unlike Andy, who's like, what are you talking about? Let's get into this Venezuela thing.
I'm lost. Let's talk Venezuela.
All I'm saying is things were looking up. And then some things happened. We had to come back to reality, right, about the situation here in America. And in our 2 hours today, we're going to get into some of that. So we'll talk about the madness confronting this country. We're going to be joined by Jeet Heer, the national affairs correspondent at The Nation and host of the podcast, The Time of Monsters, to revisit the conversation that we actually started in December about Trump's new American imperialism. Which made its in real life debut last week with the unauthorized use of military force in Venezuela that brought chaos and confusion and mixed messaging and the abduction of the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. It also brought with it additional threats of invading other countries and stealing their natural resources, because that's what imperialists do. So Jeet is going to be here to help us unpack the geopolitical implications of all of this. And here at home, we also have overwhelming and deadly force being unleashed on the American people by federal agents who are looking more and more like Donald Trump's secret police. On New Year's Eve, right here in our own backyard in Northridge, an off-duty ICE agent took the life of Keith Porter Jr. The Department of Homeland Security is claiming that Porter was an active shooter that the off-duty officer was responding to, but Porter's family disputes this claim, saying he was in fact firing a gun into the air to celebrate the new year. Firing a gun into the air in the city of Los Angeles is a felony, not a death sentence. And of course, you've all likely seen the video or heard the reports of the murder of Renee Good in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Miss Good was acting as a legal observer to an ICE action when she was told to move her car out of the street. And it appears that when she tried to do so, an ICE agent fired 3 shots point blank into her face, killing her and causing her car to crash. So we're going to be joined actually next to get a report from what's happening on the ground in Minnesota by civil rights lawyer Nikema Levy-Armstrong. And in the 5 o'clock hour, we will be remembering the victims and survivors of the Eaton fire that raged through Black Altadena 1 year ago, leaving destruction and despair in its wake, but also revealing the resilience, determination, and strength of that community. We'll be joined by Altadena resident and activist Zaire Calvin, as well as my colleague here at KBLA and host of the show Conversation Live Altadena Rising, James Farr. So we've got a lot to talk about here on our first show back in the new year at the Black Pack. Stay with us. Nikema Levy-Armstrong, civil rights attorney and founder of the Racial Justice Network in Minneapolis, will be joining us next.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-242-1551. That's 800-242-1551. 800-242-1551.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. We have all been watching the tragic news out of Minneapolis where Renee Good was murdered just 2 days ago by an ICE agent, as well as the community's response. We saw massive protests, massive peaceful protests, I should say, in response where the community came out and it continues to demand accountability for what has happened. We've seen the DOJ, the FBI refuse to cooperate with local law enforcement and state officials. And we know that this is a part of the ongoing campaign of fear and intimidation and violence that we've seen from ICE and Border Patrol in our communities. I'm grateful right now to be joined by Nekima Levy-Armstrong, a civil rights attorney and founder of the Racial Justice Network, to bring us up to speed on what's happening on the ground in Minneapolis. Thank you for joining us, Nekima.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. I know you all are going through a lot right now, but I think I would first just ask you to describe for our listeners what's happening right now and what is the sense from the community as this is all unfolding.
Well, I just got an alert that the governor has deployed the National Guard. Yeah. So we knew that was a possibility because he said, I believe yesterday or the day before, that he had sent an alert, to the National Guard to be on standby during a press conference. And he said that his rationale was to try to preempt Donald Trump from sending in federal troops. Mm-hmm. So I know that, people have differing opinions about the National Guard. Normally, I'm completely opposed, to the, coming in during situations like this. But I understand the governor's rationale if it will provide better protection and accountability for the people. Because, of course, if Trump sends in federal troops and these people are killers, the community is at a much greater risk of harm compared to, a state level agency that is essentially under the governor's command.
And the governor said when he talked about putting them on standby, he reminded folks these are our neighbors, right? These are folks who care about our community, and it's different, right? Having the governor mobilize the Guard as opposed to having Donald Trump do it, which is what we saw him do in cities across the country. I'm wondering we saw the massive protest, 10,000 people, I think it was the other night, of people come out into the streets for the vigil. And I know that there's part of the concern is, the potential for things to, go
for
in the
unrest.
wrong direction.
Yeah. So the vigil was very peaceful,
yes.
The other night.
Yeah.
And I honestly, they should be concerned for the potential for unrest. I mean, I don't think that that's really the mood right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because it doesn't seem like it.
It does. No, I think that people are finding peaceful ways to demonstrate and make their voices heard. Right? I don't know if people are aware of our community in, the Twin Cities in Minnesota, but we are a highly organized, strategic, and consistent community. And so once we knew that ICE was coming, there were various organizations that actually set up mechanisms for people to get involved and to become observers. And they trained people and even handed out whistles, right? So that if somebody's in the community and they see ICE, they start blowing the whistle to alert their immigrant neighbors that ICE is within the vicinity.
Right.
And then you have a lot of people who get alerts and they show up on the scene where they know that ICE is present, to be observers, to be witnesses, sometimes to heckle ICE, sometimes to try to physically obstruct them using their cars, and things like that. So this has been going on for weeks.
Right.
But what changed was, we had a lot of bullying that our state has been dealing with at the behest of Donald Trump and his administration, connected to so-called Somali fraud.
Right.
So there was a huge situation that we've been dealing with, in the aftermath of funds that were distributed to various organizations through an organization called Feeding Our Future. This organization was run by a white woman who oversaw the administration of $250 million in resources that were supposed to go to provide food to kids during COVID-19.
Right.
And it came out, a year or two later that these food sites never actually happened, and these people pocketed millions upon millions of dollars. And so the federal government, the state, they started prosecuting these individuals, right? And so to date, it's been over 60 Somali people who were charged with fraud under that. So it was being dealt with through the system.
Right.
Many of these people are in prison having to pay restitution. But Donald Trump seized upon the issue as a political talking point, and there has been round-the-clock news coverage. And so all of that pressure actually caused the governor on Monday to announce that he was withdrawing from his campaign, to run for governor for a third time. The next day, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem showed up in Minnesota and announced the largest deployment of ICE officers in U.S. history, saying they were going to send an additional 2,000 officers to the state of Minnesota. And the day that this began is when Renee Good got killed.
Right.
So that is kind of the backstory for people who don't know how we got to this point.
Well, and that context is so good and so helpful because I think that people have certainly heard the stories, certainly heard the president and members of his administration, right, not just him alone, attacking the Somali community in Minneapolis, and then the violence that we saw occur, the death of Renee Good happens within this backdrop, right, within this context of this pressure being placed on the people of the Twin Cities, being placed on the Somali community, and also being placed on the governor. I'm also glad that you raised, because it'd be good if you could just talk about this a little bit. I'm glad that you raised the degree and the depth of strategic organization in the Twin Cities, or across Minneapolis, to be honest, and the ways in which people have been in alliance and in solidarity with the Somali community that's been sort of the target, right? Although clearly not, is not about them at all, right? Sort of lies being told, but it's also impacting all the communities around the Twin Cities. Talk about that alliance building and that sort of solidarity, and how that has helped in the city.
Absolutely. So Minnesota as a whole is about 82% white. But in the Twin Cities where I live, in Minneapolis and, near St. Paul, we have a very diverse community of Black, Somali, Latino, Hmong, and white people. So within that backdrop, people live, in pretty close-knit communities, and they care about their immigrant neighbors.
Right.
And so through that experience, like I said, people show up on the scene and use their bodies. Most of these are white people, who are showing up, and they physically use their bodies, to stand in front of ICE, or they use their cars to try to block ICE from being able to back out. There have also been demonstrations outside of a federal building called the Whipple Building at Fort Snelling, where all of these federal agencies are temporarily housed, like Homeland Security and ICE and, some other organizations. And so people have been showing up outside of the Whipple Building trying to block the driveways and prevent ICE from being able to drive off. And so the morning after Renee Good was killed, thousands of people showed up at 7 a.m. outside of the Whipple Building to confront ICE, simply by standing there as a physical presence. So that was very powerful. Yeah. For people to consistently show up and to show that they're not backing down and they're not afraid, even though, we're facing a very dangerous circumstance. Now, the other thing that just happened today was, so let me go back to yesterday. So yesterday, we called an emergency press conference, and this is mostly Black activists and organizers who have led the fight for police accountability for many years in the state of Minnesota, including leading the fight for justice for George Floyd.
Yes.
So we called an emergency press conference to demand that local government and local law enforcement take control of the investigation into the killing of Renee Good. Right. And we demanded that officer be arrested and charged. We also demanded that his name be released. We demanded the release of any body camera footage.
Right.
So as of today, a few of our demands have been met.
Yes.
So yesterday, the Star Tribune, which is our largest paper, actually released the name of that ICE officer.
Yes.
And then the other thing that happened today was that local elected officials held a press conference trying to convince the FBI to work with local law enforcement in doing an investigation into Renee Good's murder. And then also body camera footage has been released today that shows, or at least it's a cell phone video, is something that is from the officer's perspective, that is now causing even more outrage.
Right.
Because people see that Renee Good wasn't a threat, which we've been saying all along. Well, she apparently said, "I'm no good to you, mad," as she tried to back away.
Right. Well, so it was a cell phone. I mean, there's so much about, I'm not sure how they thought releasing that was going to help them at all, right? Because it is a cell. So you have your cell phone in one hand, your video recording someone, you have a gun in the other hand. She's saying to you, "Okay, dude, I'm not mad at you." You call her an F&B. Right, like this is not, I'm not sure how they thought that this was going to help them. But it also just raises questions about this person was allegedly a firearms trainer. It just raises questions about the training, in addition to the fact
or
that
lack thereof,
right? That people are being, there's no body cam footage, but cell phones in their hands while they are wielding deadly weapons.
Exactly. And beyond that, the other thing that came out is the fact that this particular ICE agent is a resident of Minnesota, which people are shocked by because most of these people are from out of state. Mm-hmm. So he's a resident of Minnesota, and apparently he was involved in an issue last year in one of the suburbs, Burnsville, Minnesota, where he was dragged a certain number of feet by a vehicle and had an injury that required over 30 stitches. Right. So now that information has been released, it begs the question of, did this guy have PTSD?
Right.
Had he ever even been psychologically treated after having such a traumatic thing happen? And if he wasn't, why was he allowed to become an ICE agent?
Right.
It's no different than people who've been in the military who suffer, significant issues, and then they're put on the street and they fire their weapons and people get killed.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so it goes to not only the problems with the training that these officers receive or the lack thereof, as we just discussed, but also their preparation to be in the field and come out into communities, whether they're psychologically sound or willing to be trigger happy and ask questions later. Right. And that's what I feel like we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. A lot of questions still remain. Hopefully we get some answers. And hopefully the federal government decides to cooperate so that there is an actual investigation that people in the community are able to trust and believe in. Nikema Levy-Armstrong, I want to thank you and appreciate you for taking the time. I know you all have a lot going on right now. People across the country I know are watching, and we know that the folks in the Twin Cities will get accountability because you all have done this before, unfortunately. So we appreciate the work that you're doing, and hopefully you'll come back and sort of keep us up to date on what's happening on the ground there.
Thank you for having me, and I'll come back anytime.
Okay, great. Thank you. On the other side, we're going to be joined by Jeet Heer, the national affairs correspondent at The Nation and host of the podcast, The Time of Monsters. Stay with us.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Top Minnesota officials want state investigators included in the probe of the fatal ICE shooting of Renee Nicole Good. Governor Tim Walz and Black Attorney General Keith Ellison pushed back after the Federal Bureau of Investigation took sole control, sidelining the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Protests continued near the Whipple Federal Building, and local public schools remain closed for the week. Black Democrat Stacey Abrams says she will not run for Georgia governor again. She told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution she's focused on fighting what she calls an authoritarian movement. Abrams lost the governor's race in 2018 and 2022 as multiple candidates moved to replace Brian Kemp. And singer Ray J is hospitalized in Las Vegas with a serious medical condition. TMZ reports he was admitted for severe pneumonia and heart-related pain and has undergone testing. There's no word yet on results. The hospitalization comes weeks after he announced plans to hitchhike across the U.S. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Delays in Burbank on the 5 southbound from Scott Road to and beyond, all the way to the 605. There's a crash at Alameda that's being cleared out of lanes. Encino, the 101 southbound at Haskell. A wreck here should be off to the shoulder now, but we are still seeing a backup out of Calabasas from about Parkway Calabasas all the way to the scene of this wreck. And in Culver City, they've rolled a crash into the center divider on the 405 southbound at Washington. Delays here are pushing back away from Sunset Boulevard out of West LA. Then beyond the wreck, the drive remains heavy and slow all the way to Palo Verde in Long Beach.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams are in the first game of the NFL playoffs. They're at Carolina Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Rams are 10-point favorites, the only double-digit odds in the first round of the playoffs. Are those odds too high? especially when the Rams lost to Carolina on November 30th. A crucial game for the Rams to prove they are still a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Chargers are at New England Sunday night, 5 p.m. kickoff on NBC. Congratulations to USC women's basketball star Juju Watkins. The Compton native is having her number 12 jersey retired tonight by Sierra Canyon High School. Tonight at 6, it's the premiere of Out of Bounds in prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You can be a part of the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast!
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the Black Pack, and we are continuing our conversation from earlier about the abuse of power, but now taking it from inside of this country to the international stage. And I'm really happy to be joined once again by Jeet here, the national affairs correspondent at The Nation and host of the podcast, The Time of Monsters, which is a wholly appropriate name, Jeet, for the moment that we are in.
Good to be on the program.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. So we were literally just talking like 3 weeks ago or something, right? In December, before the holidays, we were you and I were having this conversation about the kind of new American imperialism, right? And Trump's then just like escalating rhetoric, right, around Venezuela. There were the bombs being dropped on boats of some kind, right? people were being murdered in the Caribbean and in the Pacific. And then, this week, it's so funny. I almost said, last week, but it's not this week. We also, had the anniversary of what was, 5-year anniversary of, Trump's attempt at a domestic coup. Except for he sort of staged one on the international level, right? In the international arena, right? And staged this attempted coup, or perhaps,
a successful coup.
Successful coup, right? In Venezuela. So, and this is not, we also talked about when you were here last, we talked about, how American adventures in Latin America have never gone well, right? And yet here we are again, and that America's attempt at, stealing oil from other countries has also not gone well. So talk to us a little bit about, is there something different, right, about what the Trump administration is attempting right now, and how it, sort of impacts the global balance of power? Or is this more of what we've seen in the past, this idea of going in? Because this, in Venezuela in particular, this is not new. Like, this whole United States going in and taking oil didn't start with Hugo Chavez, right? Like, this goes back to the 20s, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I know. We have even further back than that. I believe throughout the late 19th and into the 20th century, the U.S. Has at least 40 military interventions. It's fairly regular. As students of history will know, for American presidents to have sent in the Marines to Mexico, to Nicaragua, to Haiti, to Cuba. So this is in some ways more like a return. I think in recent decades, the last big hurrah was the invasion of Panama in 1990. But I think in recent decades, the United States has been trying both to have a more cordial relationship with other countries in the Western Hemisphere, but also been distracted to a large degree. I think in some ways Latin America has benefited from the war on terror and the American attempt to have a great power conflict with China that sort of distracted America. I think in some ways what is new about Trump is that he's sort of refocusing attention on that area. And I think the other new thing is the sort of on the level of justification. I think that even in the 19th and early 20th century, people like Theodore Roosevelt, they would go into Cuba and say, well, we're going to help liberate the Cubans. This is the white man's burden. Right. To help our little brown brothers free themselves. Now, Trump is everyone saw it. He said, we're here to take the oil. The oil belongs to us. Right. I think that's new. I don't think I've ever seen an American president that is openly justified. Listeners will remember George W. Bush, the Iraq War, they went out of their way to say, this is not about oil. This is about human rights and weapons of mass destruction.
Right. And Trump continues to say that, right? He's the one, even as, Marco Rubio and others might try and, sort of gloss over, actually, this is about, helping the Venezuelan people throw off the shackles or whatever it is. Trump does not say that, right? In fact, he's saying it again today, right? He's saying that, that this is about oil, and the oil that the U.S. will take the money from that, that comes from this oil. We'll give some of it to the Venezuelans, and we'll give the other to American oil companies. And so it was interesting because I'd like to know your sort of thoughts on the meeting that he had with the oil companies today, because the oil companies were sort of this is not going to work, right? This is an uninvestable, situation here. Yeah. And then I think Trump kicked all the press out of the room, right? So, it is his project, right? To personally enrich himself, it seems, right? And maybe he's, he sees himself as the country. So when he says, America's going to get money, maybe he just means himself. But what do you make of this?
Well, one interesting thing that hasn't gotten enough reporting is that there has been a sort of seizure of funds from Venezuela for oil money that had come in defiance of U.S. sanctions, and the U.S. government has seized that. And normally, this would be put into the Treasury and held until it's decided how to return to its proper owner. Right. The Trump administration is not doing that. They are putting this money into private banks. to like offshore banks. And even if one says, and then like, well, eventually, like maybe they'll return it to Venezuela or to the oil companies that it was seized from. The fact that you can like put hundreds of millions of dollars into a bank is actually a real power, because the banks get to hold the money and they get to charge interest on it, and you get to make friends with the banks. Right. So this is like an incredibly corrupt thing that is happening right now. It's mind-boggling. It is a kind of like, well, the larger pattern, and we see this in the Middle East as well, is a sort of privatization of foreign policy, where like the Trump business entities make deals that benefit the Trump family, it's a very worrisome development. Again, not totally new, but I think it's being taken to a new level.
Yeah, I think that there's, it is. I want to move on, but actually you said something that is just really important, and I'm glad you used the word corrupt, because I think that is what, like, if people were unable to see the level and scale of corruption in this administration, under this presidency, what Trump is saying right now should be very revealing, I think, for folks, right, in terms of what he is claiming, right, and which is sort of outrageous in a way. And I think to your earlier point that, like, you just didn't have presidents saying this kind of thing before, not just coming out and saying the whole thing, right? But sort of trying to paint it over as something more virtuous. But it also sort of speaks to, I think, a thing that we talked about last time too, which is just like the sort of reordering of the Western Hemisphere, right? And this notion, because Trump's not just talking about Venezuela, right? Like, they were very clear in the immediate aftermath.
No.
Right?
He gave off a list of other places, like right after, kidnapping Maduro, where like they are talking more again about Greenland, are talking about Cuba, are talking about Mexico in particular. I actually think what's most likely is probably in the next couple of weeks some sort of strike on Mexico, ostensibly to deal with the drug cartel, but like who knows with what motive, and with a real danger of sort of destabilizing the country. I think one thing people need to understand though is that the U.S. Itself, has the war on drugs already going back 50 years to Richard Nixon, helped destabilize Latin America, because what you had was Americans, military and police personnel going in there, training these Mexican and other nations, their police and military forces, giving them a lot of new, very powerful weapons, and then segments of those police forces align themselves with cartels. Like the U.S. intervention has totally helped fuel this. And, if anyone wants to know how effective it is, like cocaine is now like about 80% cheaper now than it was when the war on drugs was launched in 1972. So wow. I think by any metric, like this has been a colossal failure.
I want to. I had to take a breath there for a second. When we come forward, I want to come back to the thing that you just said, which that maybe scared me a little bit, right? When you said, like it may be possible in the next 2 weeks or so the U.S. launches an attack on Mexico. I want to come back to that.
I should say a few weeks. Like,
a few weeks. Okay, I was like,
yeah.
But nonetheless, right? I mean, it's still sort of. I do want to come back to that because I think that it is a part of this whole, imminent. We're just going to go in and do all the things everywhere, right, and completely destabilize the globe. So I want when we come forward, I want to lift that back up and just think about what we might expect, right, in the coming weeks and months. This is the Black Pack. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
And help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
What make you? Yeah.
What
California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
We are talking to Jeet here, national affairs correspondent at The Nation and host of the podcast, The Time of Monsters. So, Jeet, we were talking just before the break about this sort of the U.S.'s attempt, their new sort of national security policy, I guess, of sort of trying to wrangle the entire Western Hemisphere, and the potential for them. And they had a whole list of places they were going to, after Venezuela, although there is the whole notion of we've taken over, we control Venezuela, we're in control, but the Maduro regime is still in control. I guess that's also a question. Like, what are we to make of these assertions?
I think that's right. I mean, I in some ways, Trump himself, is interested in the spectacle of war. Right. He wants to use these interventions to show off power, but he also knows, boots on the ground war with American casualties would be politically very damaging. And so what we have is this weird, kidnapping of Maduro and his wife, but apparently an agreement with the regime to leave everything else in place.
Right.
And the regime itself is becoming more repressive. So, right. I mean, to what degree they can carry it out? I think that what is likely to happen in Mexico will be very similar. It'll be like a few kind of surgical strikes that will make a lot of noise and make it look like the U.S. is taking on the cartels. Right. But, what it amounts to,
right.
In the long run, it's unclear.
Because it's all theater, right? It's all a part of his reality TV show that he thinks that we're all enjoying, right? Because he's enjoying it, right? I mean, he talked about watching the Maduro raid. Like, I watched it on TV, as if he was literally watching television with no consequences.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, I think one way to think about all this is these are shows of strength, but they're also shows of weakness. Yeah. Because the new national security policy is to withdraw from Europe and to have a lighter footprint in Asia, and so that the U.S. can concentrate on countries where it can be violent without consequences. And Trump himself and Hegseth both said, when they called all the military together, they complained about the fact that the U.S. has not won any wars since 1945. And there's a way in which, they're trying to find the kind of, spectacular little theaters of violence where they can, prove that they're still manly men.
Right, and can't figure out why the American people won't go along with them, while they continue to be unpopular. So this, in terms of withdrawing from Europe, let's talk about Greenland, because they've been saying that the things that they're saying about Greenland this week, they've been saying, right? I remember when J.D. Vance went to Greenland, I think back in March, right? And there was the same sort of rhetoric, right? And Trump talked about the same thing that he's saying with the people of Venezuela, like, well, of course, why wouldn't you want us there? Like, we're going to make you rich. And he's saying the same thing to the people of Greenland. We're going to make you rich, because that's his sort of value system, and then he thinks that everybody wants that. But it just strikes me as the craziest thing, right? Because I'm assuming, even though he's saying no, I want to be a part of NATO. Is it possible to really be talking about going in, whether you're saying you're going to buy it or whatever it is that you're saying, to really try and disrupt, to take Greenland in the way that they're saying and not completely up in NATO? Yeah,
well, I mean, that's the interesting question. I mean, I think what they might be relying on is the fact that a lot of the European countries are quite weak and very reliant on the U.S. And Trump himself is recasting NATO. It's not like he's getting rid of NATO, but he's turned NATO into a kind of protection racket. And in that sense, I mean, he and this idea of like giving more legroom to Vladimir Putin goes along with that. Trump is basically able to go to the European countries and say, you know, nice little continent you have here. It would be a shame if my friend Vladimir did anything to you, right? So I mean, what Trump has been doing is constantly getting the NATO countries to buy more American weapons, and so
it's a shakedown.
I am worried that some of the European leaders, I think Keir Starmer in England in particular, it seems like he wants to do anything he can to please Trump, and that's a very worrisome. They might be able to divide the Europeans and, you know, create a very a situation where Denmark itself can't defend itself.
Right. Yeah, and that all feels very dangerous. I mean, I think.
Yeah. No.
I mean, if it's, you know, one just the entire, you know, sort of foreign policy of the United States is just shaking people down around the globe, which I'm not. I'm not sure exactly how that benefits the people of America, right? And I don't understand the rationale. Like they're not even attempting to. You know, to explain in any way, shape, or form how this new foreign policy benefits and keeps Americans safe. In any way, they're not even attempting to explain it. They're just doing things.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are segments. I mean, I think definitely some of the weapons manufacturers, you know, as you mentioned, the oil companies themselves are reluctant to get involved with Venezuela. But I would imagine that. You know, there might be some, you know, wildcatters or independent outfits that might want to make some business deals in this new environment. But it is absolutely destabilizing. And I mean, we have a history of this. I mean, like, you know, historically, like imperialism leads to war, right? Because you have these different great powers competing for the resources in the same territory. This is like, it's a recipe for a bigger war. And I really wish the Democrats would talk about this, talk about how this is a foreign policy that you know is the most likely to lead to World War III.
Right. And why aren't they, G? Like why? What? I'm not sure what the coherent messaging is coming out of the Democratic Party on any of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people like Schumer and Jeffries have decided that there's certain issues like healthcare that Trump is weak on, and they feel that talking about anything else is like a waste of their resources. I don't know. I think it's a real political miscalculation. And we saw this in the last election. Like, you know, like Trump was able to keep saying, "I'm the peacemaker. I'm going to make peace deals," and I kept waiting for like Kamala Harris to like challenge us and say, like, "No, look at this guy's record." You know, I really wish the Democrats would get a very strong message on this because I think they can.
Yeah. Well, I want to try and tie this up in our last like 2.5 minutes here back to the domestic agenda, right? When you were here in December, we also talked about this connection between what we're seeing with, you know, what feels more and more like a secret police force, right? And the commando style raid, right, that we saw happen in Venezuela.
Which now it's really coming home. Yeah.
Right. So yes, I mean, I just talk about that a little bit because
I mean, this is the case of the war coming home or the imperial boomerang. I don't think it's an accident that the ICE officer who shot the woman Good in Minneapolis was an Iraqi war veteran. You know, I think that a lot of these, what we're seeing is the sort of tactics used in Fallujah or used by America's ally Israel in Gaza, you know, like being brought home. And I think people like Stephen Miller, like, they want to dominate the Western Hemisphere, and the U.S. is part of the Western Hemisphere. And they want to, you know, like use military-style tactics for the war at home.
Conquering their own citizens, right? Conquering the governors of states who they see as foreign opposition. Feels like the connection that is maybe being made more real, right, on a day-to-day basis, as you know, ICE murders people in Minneapolis and shoots people in Portland and shoots people in Los Angeles. It just feels like it's all hopefully crystallizing for American citizens.
Yeah, no, and one would hope so. I mean, traditionally, these sort of tactics do actually provoke a lot of opposition. I don't think, even in American history, I mean, this is what the British Redcoats were doing before the American Revolution, right? They were shooting ordinary citizens. We'll see what happens, but it's a very scary and dangerous moment.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for breaking it down for us and helping me actually understand what's happening and to think about it differently. I appreciate you, and I'm going to continue to call on you if that's okay with you.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm always happy to be talk on this program. Yeah, no, it's great having these conversations.
Yeah, and we have a few weeks to see how things continue to play out. So I appreciate you coming on. Jeet here, national affairs correspondent at The Nation and host of the podcast, The Time of Monsters. When we come forward, we're going to turn our attention to back home and talk about the 1-year anniversary of the Eaton Fire. Stay with us.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A judge has allowed former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Antonio Brown to travel to Tampa for business while awaiting trial on attempted murder charges. Prosecutors argued Brown, who is black, is a flight risk, but the judge approved limited travel later this month after his defense attorney said he just wants to work and see his family.
Antonio Brown gets it. He knows that he's being watched.
Brown remains out on bond with an ankle monitor and is accused of shooting a man outside a Miami boxing event. Minnesota officials are calling for an independent investigation into the fatal ICE shooting of Renee Good. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty and